Hello. Okay, so today I am going to do a video on how to make a homemade mask, and before we do this demo I would just like to have it noted that this is not a replacement for the N95 surgical mask that the health workers use, but this is just a contingency plan, I suppose, for those who are unable to avail of surgical masks due to the shortage and so forth. Now this mask itself is got two contrasting materials to it, and the reason I went for contrasting materials is so the person using it will know which side was on their face. And you will also see at the back of this it has a 2-inch opening, so if you have any filter, the likes of any, they say the Hoover bag filters, they're a HEPA, H-E-P-A standard, and they are a good quality breathable material, so if you have anything like that you could put it inside. I would just also say that these masks are one use, one wash, so as soon as you're finished with it, it should go into the washing machine at a 60-degree wash to kill any bacteria. Okay, so to make this mask today, what you are going to need is a 9-inch square of material. So that's one piece 9 inches by 9 inches. My contrasting pieces are both 9-inch by 5-inch, and you are also going to need 2 pieces of elastic that are 7-inch. Now the width of my elastic is 12mm. If you have thinner, by all means, even better. This is all I could get in the shop. Okay, so to make the mask, firstly we're going to take our 2 pieces of 9-inch by 5-inch, and we are going to place them right sides together. So I just need to get the center here of one of these pieces, so I'm going to bring it back up and just finger press it lightly and then bring it back down. Now I just want to note as well, all my seams today are going to be 1/2-inch seams. First thing I need to do is I'm going to take my friction pen and I'm going to just place a mark in the center here just for now, just so I know that that is my center, and I'm going to step out 1 inch either side. So when I go to the machine and I start sewing, I'm sewing a 1/2-inch seam. I'm going to seal my seam at the start, my reverse stitching back again. I'm going to do the exact same thing here also to close my seams. Okay, I'm going to move on and continue along. So we're going to take it over to the machine now. Okay, so I've now brought my material to the machine, and I'm just going to do a couple of stitches, back stitch, and go forward to my first line. Back stitch again here and forward. So rather than cut my thread at this point, I'll generally just push enough of it out of the way and continue back in, starting at my next line. Again, forward and back a few stitches. Continue to the end and just back stitch again on it. Okay, now I don't cut this thread off either. I just like to say, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the iron, I'm going to press my seam, and I'm going to press my seam open so these threads get encased in the seam. Okay, and then I'm going to come back and we are going to stitch the top seams here open. Okay, so I have ironed my seams here open, as you can see, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come along, and where my center line is, I'm going to stitch outside of that about 1/4 inch, so it keeps those seams inside nice and flat. Okay. And again, rather than cut my thread, I just swing this around. And go back down the opposite side. Okay, so we're going to go over to the cutting mat now for our first assembly. Okay, so this is our first assembly, and if you want to, at this stage, if you have any overhanging threads, now is a good time to trim them off. I just did mine there off of camera. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to place our piece that we just stitched together down, and as you can see, here is the opening on it. All right. We are going to take our material, our other one, and we're going to go right sides together with that. So we currently now have a 9-inch square, but we're working on top and bottom and both sides. So remember your line that you have stitched here, this stays in the horizontal for now. We're going to go back to the machine, and I'm going to put a 1/2 inch seam on the top and a 1/2 inch seam on the bottom, and I will come back to you then when that is done. Okay, so I have put in my top and my bottom seam at my 1/2 inch, and now what we need to do is we need to put in our elastics. So we're keeping it right sides together on the inside. We're going to take one of our elastic pieces and we are just going to put it in here. Now the top of your elastic here, you want that to sit in against your stitched seam like so. I'm just going to slide it back then along that stitched edge until it's just about protruding over the edge. Okay, I'm going to hold that in place, and I'm going to take one of my pins and just pin that through. Okay, now putting your hand in, then you follow the elastic to make sure it's not twisted, and you're going to bring it down to the end section just below, and you're going to do the exact same thing. So your other edge then will be butted up against your stitched seam, and once you can just see the elastic about to protrude, take another pin and just pop it in there. Okay, that's one side. We turn it around and we do the exact same thing on the opposite. So elastic again, back in, runs on the edge of the stitched seam, it's held in place, and we pop in a pin. Again, you follow the elastic down along, and again run the edge of it up against your stitch seam, and we'll pop in our last pin. So now we bring this over to the machine, and again we will put a 1/2 inch side seam down on both ends. Now just for this, I would like to note I do back stitch at the start and the end, but I don't back stitch up here where my seam is. I actually back stitch where that elastic is, so it gives it that extra strength of hold in the stitch. Okay. Okay, so I'm now back at the machine, and again I'm just going to start sewing down along. So I've just come onto the elastic now, and just carefully, before your needle comes in contact with the elastic, take out your pin. So I'm going to back stitch the full length of the elastic again and back down along. Okay. So just be careful when you are doing this that the elastic inside doesn't come anyway close in to the needle. And as you stitch, then just you will need to keep repositioning your material, because there is a spring on that material now because of the elastic. Again, I'm just coming in contact with the elastic now with my needle. So I remove my pin, back stitch the elastic completely, and forward again. And we will repeat the process on the opposite side. and then I will see you back over at the mat. Okay, so the next stage we are going to do is we are going to turn the mask inside the right way. And the easiest way to do that is if you can try and get in as close as possible to those elastics and start to pull them out. It makes it easier. And once it's fully right sides out, we will bring it to the iron and press it, and then I will talk you through the best way of folding the creases into it before we stitch our side seams. Okay, so just try and get your side seams here fully out along the whole way, and I'm going to bring it to the iron and press it now, and then I will be back to you and we will do the folding of these edges. Okay, so I'm back to you again, and I have pressed the mask flat. So the easiest way I find for finding my spaces to fold our creases in here is if you take the mask and you hold the front of it face up, and what you're going to do is you're going to fold it downward. Okay, so I just fold it in half and I just put a crease in it with my hand. Okay, so that's the first one. And then I open it back out, but when I open it back out, I open it from the back. Then secondly, I take my outer edge again and I bring that edge into my center and fold it, and I bring my other outer edge into the center and fold it, so it looks like so. Okay, and then I just open it back out again, and you will see then by doing so you have created, I'm not sure if you can see them on my camera here, but I've created 3 lines, and that's basically just after breaking it up into 4 quarters. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our bottom edge here, try and get the elastic out of the way that you can see it. We're going to take our bottom crease, should I say, that we have pressed, and we are going to bring that up. Now where you have your center crease, your distance between your first crease and your center crease, this is where you're going to drop this line, so it's halfway between your first and second crease is where you drop that. Okay, just like so. I'm going to take a pen again, and I'm just going to pop a pen in here. Now I'm popping my pins in further on the mask rather than out on the edge, because we have our 1/2 inch seams here and we have our bulk, so I'm putting them in further. Okay, and also by putting it in further, when you bring it to the machine, you can keep the pins in while you stitch. Okay, perfect. Now again, you can still see I still have my 1/2 inch finger pressed mark there. Okay, and again I'm going to bring that halfway between there and my other one up top. Okay, so just catching each one again and bringing it halfway between the two. Same thing again with my pins. And lastly then, my top one, do the same thing. I will just bring that up halfway between the seam and the end. And the last pin. So this is done by eye. Okay, there's no need to measure here. Alright, so this is what I have so far. I'm going to bring it now over to the machine, and I'm going to stitch down along here. Now rather than stitching a 1/2 inch seam here, I stitch about a 3/8 of an inch, and the reason is because your seams inside here, they're a 1/2 inch, and by stepping back that little quarter, it catches all those seams, and again it catches the elastic and it just seals it again a bit better for you. Okay, so we're going to go back over to the machine now. We're going to stitch down this side and this side. Okay, I'm back at the machine, and when I'm stitching here, again I'm going to go forward and I'm also going to back stitch on it. if you're worried about movement of your pleats here, you can always just take a needle and use that to help you hold down your material as it feeds through. Again, backstitch at the end. Forward. And lastly, the opposite side. Okay, so there we have it. We have our second finished face mask. Okay, so best of luck with it, and I hope the instructions are okay for you. So there is a shortage of elastic right now, so if you don't have any in your stash at home, and I'm sure that most places are sold out with it now anyway, you do have some other options. So this other mask that I have here is just, you can see there, what I have done is I have just attached some cotton ribbon to this, okay, and that will suffice. Or secondly, what you can do is you can make a binding here for your face mask and just stitch it on, and this material here would be 2.5 inches and it's folded and stitched. So I'm just going to do a really quick demo for this option face mask if you don't have access to the elastic. Okay, there is a slight change with the dimensions from this one as opposed to this version. All right, so what you do need is you need your piece of material again, which will be 9 inches in the width, but this time it's 8 inches in the height. You still need 2 pieces that are 4.5 inches by 9 inches, and the procedure for this section here, sewing them together, is the exact same as in my first demonstration earlier on. So just copy that again, and then I will show you the next stage. Now for the binding piece here, you need a piece of material that's going to be 40 inches in the length by 2.5 inches in the width, and you need 2 of those. Now if you don't have something that is 40 inches, you can join it together, and I will do a short little clip of that at the machine as well for you. So I'm going to go to the machine now, show you how to join these, and when I come back then I will also have this section stitched and we'll be ready for our first assembly. Okay, so if you need to join your 2 pieces of material together, or even if you need to join 2 or 3 together, the first thing you'll do with the piece is, if it's patterned, keep your pattern face up, all right, and you'll move it to the back of the machine so you can just have this bottom edge here. And you will take your other piece, and if it is patterned, you'll put it down on top of the other one, right sides together. So by doing that, you will create this backwards L shape. What you do then is you go to the machine, and from your right side here, you do a diagonal stitch from here right down to the bottom corner here. If you need to mark it with your friction pen, crayon, chalk, by all means do so. So I have it held here now in position. If you need to pin it for yourself, do. I generally just hold them. Just moving my needle back to center. So now what happens is you take your side from the left and you flip it and you have your piece joined together. This back edge here, you just trim it and put a 1/4 inch seam on it, and I iron my seams open because there will be bulk when we start to fold it. So I'm back at the iron, and what you're going to do with your 2.5 inch piece is you're going to have your seam here ironed flat so your seams are open, and I'm just going to start at my very right side of it then, and I'm going to fold it in half like so and just move along with my iron. I'm going to do that the whole way down along. Okay, so you have pressed this down along the full length. You're going to now start from the right side again. You're going to open the fabric outward. Okay, you're going to bring your both outer edges into those centers, so into that center crease, and the same with the opposite one, like so. And you're going to fold it back over on itself again, over on its original crease. Then you're going to take your iron and you're going to press it. And you're going to do that the whole way again down along, and this creates your binding for your mask. Okay, so I have my 2 pieces of string, binding string completed. So the next stage I need to do before I go attaching these is to put both sides of the mask together. So this is the 9 inch width facing up, and this is your 8 inch, as we said, facing downward in the height. And again, what we're going to do is put right sides together on our mask. So the hole here, the slot here, is going across the way in the center. All right, it's horizontal. What we're going to do this time though is we are going to sew the side seams. Originally what we would have done with the other style of mask with the elastic is we would have sewed the top seams first, but this is different. What we do is we put our 1/2 inch seam on both sides at the machine. So I have stitched both seams and I've turned it out the right direction, and what I want to do is I want to press these seams flat. So where the front meets the back of the mask, I will generally move my seam over here, take my iron from the middle and just work it out, and that flattens it for you, flattens the seam a bit better. I'll do the same on the opposite side. And then again, you just sit it flat. And give it its final press. Just to note at this stage, the reason why we left this 8 inches instead of the 9 inches like the elastic version is because we don't stitch from the inside and turn it back out again. What happens is our binding here, if we just open it out, our binding is sitting down on the front and back of our mask, hence why we don't need to have that extra inch for our seams on either side. All right, so what we do now is we take our mask, so this is our open on the top and our open on the bottom, and we're just going to fold that over both of these and just put a little finger press on both of them. So that tells me that's my center. I do the very same thing with my 40 inch piece of length here. Okay, couldn't think of the word for a second, and again I just press that down. So I'm going to open it back out, and there's my mark here, and there's my mark on the mask, and you're going to sandwich that mask then in between your binding on that center line. Perfect. And if you wish, you can put a pin in it just to hold that center mark. So we are going to go to the machine now, and we are going to start to sew our binding from the very edge and run it the whole way through. So I'm starting to feed the binding straight through now. So I'm just coming up on where the mask is, and I'm just going to fix that back in there, like so, and continue on. I can take the pin out of the way now. We will continue down the whole length, and we will do the exact same on the opposite side. I have finished putting my ties onto the mask top and bottom, and I've also gone and I have put my folds into the mask also and did my side stitches. And again, the process for doing the fold and the side stitching is the exact same process as doing the one for the elastic, which you will find earlier on in the demo for this one. Alright, so best of luck with it, and thank you for watching.